So I'm going to start off with Scott Krager and I have had a bit of a conversation over time about mentorship. Most teachers, if they are any good, are mentors to their students. But it takes a peculiar kind of empathy for other people to do that. And I started thinking about, okay, I was Melissa's mentor in some ways. Sometimes I still am. He came with me. So I started thinking about the ones who have meant the most to me in terms of changing my life, is what it comes down to. I had to start with my wife, Sue. We've been married 55 years. It's been up and down and around and around. Yeah, more than half of my friends are either divorced or dead, one or the other. but I'm 77 going on 78. I reached the point where I realized that I had not been a very good husband at times, and I had a drinking problem, which Melissa and I both shared, as far as how do you find your way through that. But I wrote this poem called She, and this is about Sue. If the path has led through horrors, and I awake to see my face in the cracked mirror, if I stumble out of bed in darkness and am lost in the silver of the shattered moon, I see now to seek a deeper love. In she I almost lost, in the silence of shared years. She who sustained me through my agonies, she who brought me up short, a nightmare dreamer, wayward child, man corpse, thrashing with fear of betrayal and abandonment, born like a poison blade through childhood to middle age. She who took my pain and gave back unicorn and Mia Fleur, the orchid's delicate curved cup, a tender hand for the foundling raven, and laid them at my feet as gifts. She who bore 3 children and lost 2 babes through the long dream and struggle of birth, whose groans brought speaking tongues and bright young eyes to my life and hers, who stood by me when another would have cast me adrift and called out good riddance. She who took my hand and would not let go. I rise today to sing her praises. She has borne deep memory of generations coming and going, giving language to those with none, tutored the broken child and raised her up, skilled gardener training the vine she nurtured to reveal the passion flower within when none believed it would live. She who is neither little flower nor Rosa Mundi, but one who'd sit alone with a lost child and teach her to sing, him to heal his wounds. Grant, you who bear love's deep weight, that such love must bear us through all the sorrows we ourselves make, the wounds for which springtime balm flows. Thank you. I always remember when Carl Rakosi, the great objectivist poet, a realist is what he wanted to be called, when he was reading at Naropa, he had a long poem about his friend George Oppen and said, I'm going to ask you something odd. Don't clap when I finish a poem, because I want to read into the silence. I'm not asking you guys to do that. You can clap all you want. I don't give a damn. But at the same time, I'm always reminded of that. Okay, the second one is of my mentors, as Robert Hayden, the great African-American poet from Detroit, who was my professor at the University of Michigan. There were times where he and I would have conversations long past class time, and I learned a lot from that guy. they recently made his home in Ann Arbor a historical monument because of his living there. He has a poem called "The Night Blooming Cereus," which is that vine, that plant that basically it has a flower that comes out and it lasts one night at night, and by morning it collapses on itself and it's done. So it's like the great beauty that happens that is gone in a wink. And I've always thought that was neat. So we have a night blooming cereus too. It was given to me by a friend who took it from his father and had it. Sue and I have raised that thing up to where this year we had 7 different groups of blooms that came on it. We figured out how to do it. You put it outside in the semi-shade and you keep it watered. Boom, they're out, and it's like, holy shit, I got them again this year. Excuse me. Night blooming cereus. Tender petals open fully, long enough for the moon to top the trees beyond, swarm of stars above. In this garden stillness, I remember you, Robert Hayden, your gentle eyes. And then one that did readings at the Grand Valley National Poetry Festival in 1973 or 74, Charles Reznikoff, who is, I patterned my initial verse after him. He was so good. So this is in memoriam Charles Reznikoff. It's called The Rain. Looking for it, silence is nowhere. The knife blade scrapes on the cutting board. Children yell across the meadow. The sad news reaches me. This gray morning has made me turn again. Now the rain gusts over the pavement. Another is gone, the old poet whose steely voice shook compassion from sorrow, celebrated the worker's endurance, the delicate heart, even in irony. When I'm full of sadness, the wind comes to me. Where there's sorrow, let me be there. I wrote this right after I was developing a relationship with Allen Ginsberg, and that lasted for 20 years. You know, I was right up. Actually, I was one of the last people he called when he called all his friends to say farewell and thanks for being my friend while he was dying. And but anyways, when I sent him my first little chapbook called Stars, which was a little 36-page thing, he wrote back and said, "Give me 12 copies and I'll pay you for them." And I went, holy shit. So anyways, I sent them to him, and I said, if you can, please, he named some people that he wanted to send them to, people like Creeley and Ferlinghetti and those people. But I said, if you want to send them to anybody, send them to Reznikoff, because he meant more to me than anybody. And he had to, in his return message to me, he said, alas, Reznikoff died last December, and he had some memories that were there. So I missed Charles, getting to know him personally, but I owe this guy so much as the foundation work of my career. So I thought I'm going to put that on there too. Next is Allen himself, who encouraged me in more ways than I care to think. I've got a book somewhere here. Or maybe I forgot it. Hell if I know. Anyways, in my book of the correspondence of David Cope and Allen Ginsberg, 1976 to 1996, there's a section at the end where I'm sending 2 letters to my friend Jim Cohn about the ceremony of his death after the 49 days of wandering in the Bardo. And I also created a list in there of things that I had learned from him in different categories. I forgot to bring it up here, but if somebody's interested, I can show it to you later. He did everything from teaching me how to tie my tie properly to celebrating community, caring for others. Don't be angry with other poets just because their style's different than yours. Things like that. He was an amazing guy. Worked his ass off too. There were times when I stayed at his place in Boulder. I'd wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and he'd be on the phone talking to somebody in Indonesia somewhere all night long. And then in the morning he'd get up and he'd be just chipper as they come. Okay, so this is White Light and it's for Alan. This is after he visited GRCC and read at the Westminster Church there. Is it Westminster? One of those churches anyways. One across the street from CC. This was my farewell to him, or my thanks, I guess would be a better way. White Light for Alan. White light, early February, frozen winds despite snow melt and patches of green. Flocks cling and kinnikinnick, wheel up into the clear sky. How many days and years have we left as friends, moving among the same silences? Foolish to ask, yet how moved I am just to see you again. Slender muse, trumpet this love among poets in years to come. Okay, then. In speaking of mentorship, I mentored Melissa, so I've got a poem of hers that I want to do. This is called To the Edge and Back, The Gift. Well, we'll see. Gifted with vision to stare into midnight's tears, the size of thousands wandering blackened streets, dimly lit in careless laughter and rolling eyes masking the desperate reach for a tender touch too oft denied. Trapped in shared sense of tyrant time, passing into the bleak hour, pearl hour, where the solo trumpet struggles with minor key solitude. The mirror reflecting that empty stare where she too had drunk and seen the spider. Waking in a haze, surrounded by nurses, doctors, endless questions on her own confusion, wondering how to phrase it, where to begin, how to give breath to words, the ladder out. Today, she sits with me and I cut the apple she has brought. Bright morning, sun shines across the succulents filling my room, shining over her neatly coiffed black hair. Across the desk where we lift the slices to our lips and talk, now she must choose her path. Now begin a journey anew. And I, a midwife sailor, she chose to bid her welcome to that casting off. Beginning in bright sunshine, solid land receding, bid her trust her little craft and sail it beyond that tragic shore, that she find the word, the key, the gift she has lived by. So, we've been friends all these years. It's really kind of fun. It's we both have struggles and we both talk through them. I'm not going to do the Gulf War well, maybe I will. I want to get to two other things. I wanted to do the Gulf War sequence, and then I had a bunch of poems about birth and death. I think I can do that many tonight. Where am I at, Christine? 12 minutes. Holy shit. Well, pardon my French. I speak 3 languages, so I'm okay that way. So 18 minutes. Holy crap. I can go then. Let's do the Gulf War sequence. Some of you that are younger even might have memories of that. It starts with Armstrong to Gothics, which is Three of the mountains in the Adirondacks that Jim Cohn and I camped on and spent the nights on. So what we knew was that the armies were beginning to gather save Kuwait. We did not see what was coming, but there was that sense of in the background. Though we loved being together and spent a whole night talking back and forth, which we always did, still do. Anyways, the fire's out, tent flap open, two friends muse and talk. Full moon through delicate fingers of hemlock. Orange birch leaf clouds beyond, clinging in a whipping breeze. Even mosses and ferns and barkless trunks shine in this light. Same stars in ancient Mohawk dream. Same flash of leaves sailing to earth across moonstruck land. Who knows where waking ends and dreams begin as open-eyed sleepers turn. Then the second part, up over rain and lichen, streaked boulders through ripped-up roots and bleached, barkless, shattered trunks. Young balsam firs poised to push through this net of splintered dead and take the sun. Part 3, taking root stump handholds and heaving our bodies up through giant split rock crevices among fern and mossflower berry brush. Monarch settles on a fir branch, airing its wings as we pass. And then 4, panoramic red-struck mountains beyond, narrow trails all the way to the horizon and mist. Wind shrieks and whistles below, quiet slough of boot soles, hand to hand over the crevasse, up and up the rock face, breathing, clear air and sky. So I got home from that trip. Jim had provided, he worked at St. Lawrence College at the time in New York. They gave me $800 plus airfare to go out there. And I thought, holy shit, I'll take that money anytime. Coming home, lost again in the twilight garden, among fading flowers and the season's last crickets. I wander among mothers' tears and old men's sighs, the last forlorn embraces of lovers, boys torn from tender arms and loaded onto trucks as brass bands blare over camouflaged brims, hiding downcast eyes. Tonight, hundreds of thousands bed down in the desert and hear their hearts for the first time cry softly in the deep night as the moon rises. I pass through the night, now silent garden, remembering others. Excuse me. I'm in trouble. See the speeches and firepower arrayed and the orators on all sides crying, right! Kingdoms rise and fall, and threats become histories. The agony of thousands fills the wink of an eye. I turn at last and come home where Sue waits in the doorway, taking my hand and looking me eye to eye, the moon risen full beyond. Fireball in the clouds. This was when I was still a head custodian. And I remember going up and down the halls of the first floor main. And I always had talking with some of the secretaries and such. And a lot of them were just, is it always like this when war happens? Because you felt like you could feel the dead dying right around you. And I said, yeah, it sure as hell is. I lived through Vietnam, so I know about it. Fireball in the clouds. The soft snow floats through tight-packed buds and flaming stems. Shadows gesture and talk of ecology. Bits of brain, strands of veins cling to their words unseen. Specters glide in corridors, line up at windows and whisper about the weather. Phones ring, secretaries coo and yak. A red mist descends and settles over everything unseen. Protesters and flag wavers shout in rivers of blood and oil that also engulf taxis, hydrants, passing buses, hands raised to flaming clouds. A drunken man stumbles and reels into the gutter, empty eyes and open mouth, facing fireball heaven. Peace, peace, a million cry. Grenades and flags parading from open mouths. Soldiers at briefings describe mass murder in surgical terms. Blue-eyed innocents parade with flags at the Super Bowl as gas Kurds and blasted Iraqis mingle in the silent screams that rend tender springtime's sleeping buds. Oh, fleeting doves, oh, soft snow, oh, delicate curve of wild berry, oh, sleeping babe, bombed with dreams, what briefings await you in the netherworld? Right. I'm glad I'm doing these poems. I have real distinct memories of all of them. It's odd how when you do something that has great depth to it in terms of the horrors that it can involve, how it evokes memories to even read it softly. This is in fitful sleep. This is when the Iraqis were already beat, and they were the Americans and the others were parading them back through the desert to go to the prisons. In fitful sleep, legions of bleeding men drag themselves in line, armless, blue-black faces, ragged hanging cheeks, and ripped flesh, march and march with eyes once Johnny's hanging in their sockets. March with Bible thumpers and ancient vets trotting out flags in angry speeches. March young Rambos, split from cheek to crotch. March Arab bashers and Hussein mashers. March into the breach, where the God waits in the center of the fire. Oh, cringe and tears of mothers and fathers again anguish of women and young men. March for oil, march for flags, march for Hussein, march for Bush, march for God, march for right, march for money, march for smoke of burning bodies, march. I was pissed as hell. Let me get the other one of these so I don't choke to death. I got a couple more from this group, and I'll ask you again where we are. Below the headlines. Below the photo of Cheney and Powell grinning with a Bart Simpson statuette, a surgeon in Baghdad amputates children's legs by candlelight, no anesthetic, takes blood from one to give to another, praying the unknown types are right. The procession continues. Old and young men, bomb-battered women with babes, faces ripped by shrapnel. Some die for lack of medicine, clean water, some from the cold night filled with sirens and bombs and wailing. One of the things, I grew up with Ernest Hemingway's stories, and, when he wrote For Whom the Bell Tolls, he talked about how he wanted to be absolutely fair. He not only told the story from the standpoint of those who were on his side, but he also told of what they did to the people on the other side. And I've always kept that in mind. That's what this poem did, is it made us look at our side, if you will. The front lines. The choices for raw recruits and boys are simple. Fall back and be shot to death by the Republican Guard. Go forward into the minefields and be blown to pieces. Or wait for the beefy Americans and take your chances fighting them. Perhaps the Shamal will come early, then the holy days of Ramadan. Let's see what we got here. I'll do 2 more of these and then we'll go to the next ones, as long as I got time. 10? Damn, I'm going good. The Middle Eastern form is called a ghazal, G-H-A-Z-A-L, but I learned it as gazelle. I think it's a little more sweet that way. So this is my gazelle for the coming spring. I have a bunch of those things. I like them. They're 2 lines to the stanza, but the stanza never repeats what was said before or never continues it. I kind of fooled with that a little bit. Broken men march with bleeding ears, guns trained at their backs, glistening. Here tanks and launchers burned, masses of corpses flew and fell, ripped and stinking. Here graves mass, open jaws and sockets of skulls tell no hero's story, nor sing where blood ran into sand and sank, where rain and Shamal remake the land daily. Excuse me. Passing caravans tell and I'm afraid I'm going to lose it again in a second here. It's a terrible thing when I got to read and I've got a little cough. Passing caravans tell and retell a silken story, and pilgrimage sums a lifetime's hope. Women of Kuwait wail and shriek for lost love, and burning wellheads blacken the sky. Across the world, old men dream in starlit silence among lilacs budding early. You can guess who the old man is. Finally, one more. I think that may be the last one for the bunch. We'll see. Words. As the Americans stood by, Saddam bombed Kurds and Shiites, freedom fighters who dreamed Bush would stand by his word. In Turkish mountain camps, children slowly starve. A Kurdish mother weeps at her son's open grave and bends to gently touch and smooth the cloth that wraps his corpse. Okay, that's the end of those. I've always been a staunch anti-war person from the time I was a kid. There's nothing to be gained by war. All you wind up with is a bunch of corpses and people pissed off at each other after it's over with. Some good things happened, and after World War II, I think there were some good things there. But birth and death. I thought I'd choose my second child, Alex, originally named Jane, but she's decided that she's a non-binary adult female, non-binary adult anyways, which is her way of saying I don't want to be choosing one sex or the other, or one gender or the other. She's a fierce young woman. Well, she's 50 now. I think she's 50 now, maybe 40, something like that. 45. Anyways, this is her birth. Of my 3 kids, Anne, the first, the husband could not be in the birth room. They thought it would be too distracting, but with Alex, what it came down to was they would allow me in there if I was trained first on what to expect. And so I took the training, and I went in there, and with my last 2 kids, I got to watch everything, and I realized just how much Sue gave to make that kid come into the world. I think it's a good thing. If a guy doesn't turn into a hysterical idiot in the middle of the process, at that point, kick his ass out of the room. Okay, Alex, Jane. Under my hand, moist forehead, Sue looks up. The doctor's cut through flesh wall, fat layer, still deeper. Their gloves redden with her blood. She is purely calm, her calm becoming mine. And now the doctor's hand enters her abdomen. The aide pushes. A blue head appears, wrinkled, angrily drawing breath. A howl as the whole blue body appears, cut and clamp, weigh and check, and suck out nostrils. Hand her to the father, me, who sits amazed as blue flesh turns slowly pink, Sue's hand reaching to touch. And then, this next one is called New Moon, and it's wondering, as many people do, I bring a child into the world, and what kind of world is it that we're in? And it's a horrifying thought in some ways. You know, what are you going to have that I didn't have as far as those things? Tonight as my baby sleeps, roses and poppies fill her dream. New moon. Train whistles around the bend. Toxic wastes from Dow. Shipped south. Oh, the lantern in the brakeman's hand. My hair is graying quickly now. After barren years, this child's an unexpected blessing. Hard to keep one's mind intact and calm. Bombers fly above, defending us. If we are breathing here in 20 years, what masks will we wear? So, I stopped to think about COVID. It's terrible. My friend, the Breidenfield family were my best friends as kids. And the youngest, Billy, they all had that disease, ALS, I think it was. And basically, over a period of time, the person afflicted with it grows weaker and weaker and unable to speak, unable to lift their hand, and so on. This one's for Billy. They got a computer that basically he could type out what he was thinking, and that's how they could communicate with him. And he called me over to his bed. The family watched over him 24 hours a day, taking 8-hour shifts for 3 years. If you think about caring for your family, that's a family. They were fierce folks. All the rest of my friends, Charlie and John, are both dead now too. It's a terrible disease. Anyways, Billy called me over, and he tapped out on his computer, write me a prayer. So this is for Billy. Excuse me a second. Not so much what we want. Light comes in, passing thought, in touching hands, in quiet watching clouds pass by, moon and sky. Eyes must open, mind be calm. Kind as kin this dream, the end certain as a baby's cry. The babe, the boy, the strapping man spring through a kiss. Matter less than how we rest, awake in the dream. And see who needs our touch, our eyes, and know what can and can't be done. Light pierces the raindrop, suspended for its brief moment, ornament and compliment to the oak bud's tip. After his death, I wrote a farewell poem for him to be read at his funeral, and that's this one, Farewell. Skull and shell in rock where the delicate tracery of nerves once shot the gap through living meat. Bone digit that once pointed out stars or tenderly touched clitoris and birth canal in moments where their eyes drank each other in and their skin was singing flame. Oh, song, rise out of that dead mouth now. Bright babe, leap through those jaws into white air again. Spinning seasons, oceans, rivers, rocks, and tides, and still dawn where one leaf floated by the boy's dangling feet who rose and looked back once and walked away. Tonight, a brother's greatest gift to brother is letting the goddess star guide that dark sail beyond any horizon for the knowing. That gift is tears. Yet here's the heart, where kindness is more than kind, and kin is bond for breaking. Farewell. Keep watch from that other shore. We're coming. I'm going to do how much? One more? Okay, so I wrote I grew up on the river, and I'm in love with rivers, as well as lakes and the Great Lakes. But there's 3 poems I did. One was the Two-Hearted River up in UP, which Hemingway made a big deal out of. We kayaked it, and it was a great thing here. Second one's the Owashtonong Sunrise, which is a fisherman on Grand River right in the middle of downtown. Third one is River Rouge, which was the river that floats right by the Ford plant that was a mile long, where raw metal came in one end and finished cars came out the other. And my dad grew up in Detroit, and I was born there. I still call it my favorite hometown. Detroit, Ann Arbor, and Grand Rapids is the third. Anyways, I'll do Two-Hearted River. I have a special feeling for that poem. Eyes like ravens over roadkill, fingers flashing in reeling Zebcos. The fisherman can't grasp that some come for the water itself, tanned red near shore, but so clearly a black mirror where no face appears. Or for lichen rotted balsam firs lying like corpses across the flow, stacked with flotsam and foam, feathers and bones, the fallen siphoned and spat down where the portagers put in with a quiet rush, as cranes hang almost still in the turning sky above. Yet even the heart cannot fathom what stillness rests in this plunge, why men sing together like choir boys and stop the gunnel rush and lay the paddles down in the whipping breeze, where scarred pines bend through storm and sigh and rainbow's end. Nor is it clear what draws one to the mouth, even as the last ice floes, frozen in winter's roaring surge, break free in great chunks, leaving the churned sand of November's waves again among agates below. Even the dreams of rescue at sea, the poignancy of a captain's last transmission, retold around the kitchen stove in Paradise or Mackinac, by old salts now retired to muse through raining years, excuse me, with stormy Mondays and with names of the dead, cannot pierce through this water to the lost bottom or read the runes in the lights of the waves. It's a great mystery, that thing. So I guess I'm done for a ducat. Thank you.